Hello, everybody, and welcome into another season preview show here at the Hockey Writers. We're previewing the 2025-26 season up to the Philadelphia Flyers and got Justin Giampietro here. Justin, you've been on many videos and including season previews over the last, I think, 2 seasons. Last season, I don't think I did it with you. I think it was Mike that did last season's preview. But how's it going?
I'm good. It's been kind of a slow off season in terms of, I would say, Flyer stuff, just kind of waiting for it to get ramping up again, because it's really the last few seasons where they don't make the playoffs and it's 6 months of nothing. So it's really hasn't been a good time to be a Flyers fan, but we hope that's changing at some point in the next few years.
Yeah, I think in general, the offseason has been very quiet for many teams. Free agency was done in a flash. It was like 1 week, and then that actually maybe even just 2 days, where it was everything done, and then really hasn't been much over the last few months. But yeah, I think everyone's itching for the season to start. So I'm actually happy to be doing these previews because it means we're getting close. So let's get into the Flyers. Not a lot of real big changes to the team, but they did make one big change at forward, and that was adding Trevor Zegras from the Anaheim Ducks. So we'll talk about him first because he's probably the biggest addition going into this season. Goaltending, there was an addition there too. But what do you think about Zegras joining the team? I mean, it seems like since his first season in Anaheim, he's kind of been an okay guy. He hasn't been that flashy. We all know what he did in his rookie season, and it seemed like he was going to just blow the league up, but kind of fallen off, maybe some injuries and stuff like that. But what do you think of his addition?
I'm more optimistic than most when it comes to Zegras. I watched some of his games when he was at his peak in those 2022 and 23 seasons, and some of his games recently, and the traits are still there, I think. First of all, he is very good at beating guys one-on-one. If there's a defenseman and him, there are maybe a handful of guys in the league that can beat that defenseman on the rush. Zegras can. There was a play, it was a 3-on-2, and he attacked a defenseman, got him out of the way, and then all of a sudden it was a 3-on-1. And that's just kind of the thing that he can do. He is really dynamic off the rush. But also what I noticed is that in the defensive zone, he's got a very good stick. And that is something that can really gel with Matvei Michkov, which we'll get into him a lot and that chemistry. But a guy who can steal the puck in the defensive zone and get the puck moving the other way, he did that plenty, and it leads directly to goals. And a guy like Michkov, who is he gets ahead. He's always one step ahead of the other team, and that's how he gets breakaways.
Mm-hmm.
And Zegras can kind of set those things up. So that's kind of a natural fit to me. And I just really liked what I saw from Zegras. He's everywhere. He's always making plays. And even in these last couple seasons where he hasn't put up that many points, 47 points in 88 games over the last couple years. But I'm optimistic. I think that in the right system, being put back at center, all those things can really benefit him and the Flyers especially, who didn't really have a great center beyond Sean Couturier last season, who gelled well with Michkov. They played good hockey together, but I think Zegras, he can just be an extra step ahead, and he's more dynamic, and he does some similar kind of things. And I'm very excited for what Zegras can bring this season.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, like I mentioned, he was so flashy and so exciting to watch in his first couple seasons there, and everyone was just talk of the league. He was on, of course, the NHL EA Sports cover. Yeah, I mean that was just seemed like he was going to just break out and be a star, and I think he can still be. Like you said, he's definitely has those traits about him. They can be on the highlight reel. Maybe leaned into that a bit too much in his first season, maybe. But I think he can still be a very good forward. And I agree. I think he's going back to center. he's going to be able to be that type of maybe a bit more dynamic again. He kind of got lost in the shuffle in Anaheim, and was he a center? Was he a winger? And all of a sudden, they just added so many centermen that where does he go? And I thought he was going to get traded at some point, and finally happened. And now he's a Flyer. So we'll see if he has a bigger role. He will get a bigger role, and if he can kind of find a home in Philadelphia too. All right, we'll talk about the rest of the forward group because, like you mentioned, Matthew Michkov is the centerpiece on the forwards for sure. What do you think? Big storylines, burning questions going into this season, because there are a few guys that, I mean, they could be a good group, they could be a bad group. So what are you looking at with the forwards?
Well, the number one thing, and it was the same thing last year, is Michkov. He is your future. He is the face of the franchise. No doubt about it. He is really the Flyers at this point. And last year, he was great. He lived up to all the expectations I had for him, and I had very high expectations, higher than most other people. He had 63 points in 80 games already. That's star-level production as a 20-year-old player. But I am willing to give him some excuses because even though that was a great year, he faced a lot of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, he was only getting second-line minutes. He was probably the Flyers' best player last year, and he just wasn't playing with the Flyers' best players. He was playing with AHL call-ups. They would call up a guy from the AHL a day before, and he would play with that guy. It didn't always go well. Very inconsistent ice time, a lot of benchings. And also the Flyers power play was very bad again. And still he was able to be this, like I said, a star level producer, 63 points in 80 games, the highest goal scoring rookie in the NHL. I am very optimistic for what he can do this season with that in mind and with the coaching change in mind. With Tortorella gone, it was only 9 games, so not a big sample size, but he was an 100-point player, more than that actually, with Tortorella out of the picture. When he was playing regularly with Konechny, which he wasn't for most of the year, when he was playing with Couturier, which he wasn't for most of the year, he looked like a superstar in those final 9 games and through chunks of the season, but really consistently through those last 9 games, he looked like a superstar player. The big storyline for me is if he can find another gear or maintain that, I guess, under Rick Tocchet, which we'll get into him later, but I think that's a big opportunity for him with a new coaching staff that is kind of going to cater to him a little bit more than the previous regime. I think that's a big thing. And if the power play improves and he gets better line mates, more consistent ice time, just everything improving, I think he could have a really, really big year. That's the number one thing for the forwards for me. Otherwise, there aren't a bunch of huge storylines. Alex Bump, I think, is one. He could make the Flyers. I think he should make the Flyers. Won a championship in college last season. He was the best player on Western Michigan. I think he's already pro-ready. Flyers seem to think so as well. He's either going to be in the AHL or the NHL, and I think he's ready for the NHL. And you look at the guys kind of that are in that mix, I think he deserves to be on the NHL team. And if he does make it, I am wondering what kind of impact he's going to have. Is it going to be a bottom 6, just gets thrown in the AHL because he struggles or whatever it may be? Or is he a legitimate middle 6, maybe even top 6 guy? Who knows? He's definitely got the pedigree, I think, to be an impactful player. And he's a guy I'm going to look out for because he really is a fun player. He was awesome in transition, especially last year. I noticed he was just all over the puck, and I think he can be a good player for the Flyers, and that's just an exciting storyline because they really haven't had a bunch of rookies like that. Obviously Michkov last year, but aside from that, they haven't had a bump type of guy, and that's a fun storyline for me.
Yeah, it's always great to see young guys come in and potentially make a difference, and we'll see where he does play. But yeah, Michkov, that's a guy that's going to get a ton more opportunity, like you said, with the new coach. We'll see. I mean, Tocchet doesn't have the best history with Russians. I mean, in Vancouver here, at least not. Podkolzin didn't seem to connect with him. So, I mean, I don't know. We'll see how Michkov kind of goes with Tocchet, but Tortorella definitely didn't work out. Tocchet has I think a bit more of a reputation that he might be able to work with them. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. All right, defense. No real big changes here. You got Jamie Drysdale. Of course, they acquired him not that long ago. That's not a new addition this season, but that's a change. What do you think about this defensive group? It kind of surprised, not last season, but the season before. Of course, there's been some changes since then. What do you think about the current group?
Overall, I'm kind of looking for some breakouts this year. I'll get into that in a bit. I don't know really what to think of the defense. Again, they have a new coach. They overhauled basically their entire coaching staff. And in 2024, it played really well. It kind of held its own. They had good advanced metrics. I like some of the guys there. Travis Sanheim, he's not ideally a number one defenseman, but he can handle those top pairing minutes, and he does what he needs to do. He was meant to be a number three. Mm-hmm. When he signed that contract a few seasons ago, $6.25 million per year, he was meant to be a good number three defenseman, but because of the rebuild and Provorov getting traded and all these things, he's had to be a number one. And I don't think that's necessarily fair to him, but I do think he can kind of hold his own on that top pair. Cam York is another guy who's probably best fit as a number three. I'm looking for a breakout for him as well. I was really saying it for a while that look out for Cam York once Tortorella's gone. I was saying that last year. But now I don't know. I don't know if he's going to be a top pairing guy. I think the safest projection is a long-term number three. The Flyers believe in him as well. I was surprised that they gave him a 5-year deal. I thought they'd maybe go short-term and looked at or just trade him outright before he signed that deal. But clearly they believe in him. Clearly they believe in that potential. He's 24, so not necessarily young. And he's had a few years in the NHL at this point and has played big minutes. But I do think that there might be breakout potential with the new coaching staff. Jamie Drysdale is the last big guy I want to look at. Right when he started his tenure with the Flyers, it was not great. There were obviously injuries that he had to bounce back from, and then he sustained more injuries, multiple injuries with the Flyers. From the start of his tenure until an injury he sustained in November, he was outscored 32-10, I believe it was, at 5-on-5 play. So he was practically unusable at the NHL level. He was basically an AHL type defenseman, if not worse. But then after that November injury, he, for the first time, looked pretty good, and he wasn't getting outscored terribly. And with Nick Seeler, he had I believe a 57% goal share in that from like December until the end of the year. So that's pretty good. He was getting good numbers. He was I would consider him, in terms of impact, a good puck-moving number 5 defenseman. And that might not sound like a lot, but again, this guy was 22 years old, turned 23 toward the very, very end of the year. So he's very young. New coaching staff as well, with Tortorella gone at that point. I believe that there's another step for him, especially. He just hasn't had a really, it's been crazy for him. And I think some consistency will be good for him. And yeah, he could take that next step for sure for me. I'm on the record saying he could be a top pairing defenseman. I do believe that. That's probably a little bit more optimistic, but right now I think he's a second pairing guy. I think he can be that this season. I am somewhat confident he can be that this season. And yeah, he's going to be a useful player. I think at his very worst, he's going to be a useful player in an NHL lineup, which he showed after that injury he sustained in November.
Yeah, another former Duck too. I mean, that's a guy that I've always liked since he was drafted, and I thought he was going to be a big part of Anaheim's blue line. But they just got so many good defensemen, young good defensemen coming up and in the lineup now. So I mean, Drysdale kind of maybe got pushed out there. I misspoke. Man, time's just flying. I thought he got acquired last season. It was the season before that. So yeah, he had almost a full season this past season with Philadelphia. So yeah, I mean, minus 32, not the best plus minus, but like you said, he seemed to play better towards the end of the season. So we'll see how he does this year with new coaches too. All right, moving to the last line of defense, the goaltending, and got a new goalie here. We got Samuel Arson is probably going to be the starter again. Dan Vladar has been added and free agency from previously played for the Calgary Flames. What do you think of this tandem? Is this a 1A, 1B situation here now? Because Vladar has shown that he can be a really good, I don't know if a 1B, but very good backup. So what do you think about him being added to this tandem?
Now, the numbers themselves don't look good. The Flyers, first of all, last season, they had the worst goaltending in the NHL. You look at data going back to 2008, the advanced stats era, they had the worst team save percentage ever in that span. It was bad. And adding Vladar, who wasn't awesome last year numbers-wise, it doesn't really change anything in the eyes of many, or at least on paper, it doesn't really change anything. But again, this is another thing I'm optimistic about. I think it changes more than it seems. The Flyers last season, they went in with Erson and two rookie goalies who weren't NHL caliber at all. Fedotov just kind of had to be there, and so did Kolosov. Mm-hmm. They weren't NHL guys, and they were probably the two worst backups in the NHL, and that really is impactful, and that put a higher workload on Erson. And when he was dealing with injuries, it was just a whole mess. Vladar has an actual timeline of being a good backup goalie in the NHL. The numbers aren't crazy, but he is an above average, objectively, backup goalie in the National Hockey League. That is much better than the two worst goalies. That's a little harsh, but they're just not an NHL caliber until they prove otherwise. Nothing against them. It's just kind of is what it is. They were put in a bad situation. Vladar is a legit backup, and that's not something you could say the Flyers have had since the last year and a half or so. And I think that could be impactful. I don't think they'll be above average. I don't think they'll be good, but I think they can be better than the worst in the last 17 years. Yeah. Hopefully. I think they can improve just a little bit. I think they can be in that mid-20s range in terms of save percentage, maybe even high 20s. I don't think that's crazy to say. And I do think there's reason to believe that they can be, a little bit better. It'll really have a big impact if they're not, the worst again.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Vladar's been a guy, like you said, has been really good backup. I mean, the numbers don't show it, but he has had stretches where he's been a starting caliber when you're looking at it in Calgary there. So, I mean, it's not like he's been bad. He's been average. So, and that's like you say, the Flyers haven't had that as for a backup in a while. So, if he can bring that, I think that's a big change. Maybe adds a couple more wins that maybe they wouldn't have gotten before. All right, well, we talked about the head coach, so let's talk about a bit more about him. And that's Rick Tocchet coming back to the Flyers, not as a coach, but he was a player for them a long time ago. But he's coming back, coming from the Vancouver Canucks, which, of course, I have a lot of experience with him. Very good in his first season. Not so much. He had to deal with a lot of trauma in Vancouver here. So we decided to leave and goes to Philadelphia. What impact and expectations, what do you think for Tocchet coming in to Philadelphia?
Well, for me, in terms of Tocchet as a coach, it's kind of undecided. There is an optimistic and a pessimistic view of him. You can pick which one you want. The optimistic side is that he is a very compassionate likable head coach. Instantly, when you hear him talk, you like him as a coach. He is really good with his words, and he is a very seemingly nice guy, and that matters. The Flyers didn't have that last year. They haven't had that. They didn't have that with Tortorella. Part of the reason he got fired, reportedly, is because of a clash with Cam York. Chris Pronger on social media called out Tortorella for his handling of Couturier, for his handling of York, like a couple weeks before Torts got fired. It is such a big change there, and that could really be impactful for this young group. The pessimistic side is that Tocchet really hasn't won a whole lot as a head coach. He did win 2 cups as an assistant, but overall, 1 playoff series win and I think 9 seasons as a head coach, and he hasn't won a championship or been to a conference finals as a head coach at any level. Most guys in the NHL have. Basically every single coach, at least at the junior level or college or AHL, whatever it is, they've won something. Tocchet has not. And yes, he has a Jack Adams, but that's the concern there, is that he's kind of unproven, even though he's been a coach for a pretty long time, going back to, I think, 2010 or 2009 with the Lightning. So I don't know. I don't know what to think. This is a new situation, and we'll see what happens. Hopefully you see a guy who gets along with his players, a guy who the players really are outspoken about and they like. I don't really hope he takes them to the playoffs or the cup or whatever that is. I just hope that there can be a little bit of a bond and players can grow under him, because with Tortorella, that really wasn't the case. No. There were a lot of guys that either stagnated or regressed. So, yeah, I'm just hoping for some growth at this stage.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, I do agree with Tocchet. There's 2 schools of thought with him too. Is that it's too much or emotion. Kind of, he's another guy. He's very emotional. Maybe not on the bench, but seems like he is that type of guy. He's very, very passionate, and can maybe rub guys the wrong way. I mean, I don't know. In Vancouver, it seemed like this past season that's what happened. But then you look back at the season that he brought the Canucks to the second round of the playoffs. I mean, I loved him as a coach because he seemed to be able to press all the right buttons with every player. So I don't know. We'll see what he is in Philadelphia, because I've seen him be a very good coach, and we'll see which one, I guess, the Flyers get this season. All right. Well, speaking of playoffs, anything like that, I don't know if that's the case here, but where do they stack up in this Metro division? There's a lot of great teams in this division, lots of teams that may be wild card type teams. Got the Islanders, might be an interesting team to watch. You got the Blue Jackets. Of course, you got the big powers at the top with Carolina Hurricanes, Washington Capitals, those teams, and even the Rangers might be able to get back in that conversation. Are the Flyers in that bottom part, or do you see them maybe being in the middle? Where do you see them here?
Right now, I see them closer to an Islanders type of team than maybe Columbus or the Rangers, who I think Columbus can be bubble in. I think the Rangers, I'm a little more pessimistic on them because they're older and they didn't really get any younger. So we'll see what happens with them. But yeah, I kind of view the Flyers as like they'll probably be around the Islanders. I don't see them being too much higher than kind of that lower middle tier of the East. Obviously, it's possible, and they could be even lower than that. They were worst in the Eastern Conference last year. I think they're better than Pittsburgh. They just have a little bit more depth, I think. Pittsburgh, they're kind of underrated a little bit. They have some good players there, but a lot of their stars are older, and I don't really see them overachieving at all. I don't think they have that kind of upside. I think the Flyers do. But even still, I'm not going to put them in that playoff range. I think maybe you hope to see them be with the Rangers, Columbus, a little bit higher than the Islanders. Mm-hmm. That kind of range, I think, is fair for them.
I think so, too. I mean, and it all depends on how the coaching kind of connects with everything, too. I mean, no one expected the Canucks to do anything when Tocchet came in either. And they did. So, I mean, if he can connect with the team and that system in place, you never know what the Flyers could do. I mean, they do have some great players. That Michkov could be that star that puts up 100 points this season. Who knows? I mean, that could happen. You could have Zegras break out and be very possible. But that'll all be in how the system connects with those players, and we'll see how it all goes. Also, goaltending is going to be a big question if that can be at least good enough. So, yeah, lots of questions and might be in that middle ground, like you said, in with those wild card type teams and being in that conversation. I don't see him being the worst. So we'll see. All right, let's get into our quick fire. And these are all just one or two sentences to go through here. First one is the biggest storyline or question mark going into this season.
I think just how Jamie Drysdale plays. It was kind of the same thing last year, but again, what's he going to do with this new coaching staff? I'm intrigued to see what happens.
Yeah, it's a good one. Breakout star. It could be one or two. How many of you ever want to kind of name as being a breakout star this season?
Michkov is my big one. I think he can achieve even more than he did last year. And as I mentioned, Drysdale, I'm going to throw him in there. He is my number 2 in that spot.
Yeah, that's a guy I think has a lot more offense in his game than what he's shown in the NHL so far. If he can stay healthy, I think he can be probably maybe a 40-point guy in the NHL at some point, maybe even 50 points. I think he has that potential. All right, the other side, there's probably a few that you can name here. Someone that needs to bounce back this season.
I think most people would say Owen Tippett, but I think that's kind of is what he kind of is what he is. He's a 40, 50, maybe high 50s type of guy. To me, it's Ersson. If he can stay healthy and, he has a backup now, we'll see what happens. That's a guy for me that I'm looking at, Sam Ersson in net.
Yeah, if he can be he has shown flashes of being a really good starter. So if he can get back to maybe his early times with the Flyers there, I think that'd be really good. He just can't be overworked. I think it seems like he's been thrown into the fire a bit. And I don't think he's that type of goalie. He has to be, I think, a platoon system to be really good. And if Vladar can provide that, who knows? He might be fine. All right, X factors. It can be a player, can be a situation, like special teams, stuff like that. But what do you see as the biggest potential X factor this season?
I talked about him a bit at the start, but Trevor Zegras, if he can return to that early Zegras form and maybe even expand on that, that's going to be a really big addition, not just now, but long term. That could be your number 1 center. Who really knows?
Yeah. He's very young, too. I mean, it seems like he's been in the league forever, but he is quite young still. So lots of potential still in this game. So we'll see. All right, let's talk about prospects, rookies, prospects. Who do you see as being a surprising guy that could maybe make the team? I know you mentioned Bump. Is he surprised to make the team? But who are you naming here?
Bump isn't necessarily a prospect that'd be a surprise. Maybe Nikita Grabenkin in that bottom 6 could be a potential surprise. I think he could be pretty good in that role, and he provides a little bit of upside. So I think I'll go with him. He can win over the coaching staff maybe with his play style.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the Maple Leafs letting him go might have been a mistake. It seems like from what Peter has talked about him on Prospect Corner over the years, I think they made a mistake getting rid of him. But we'll see how he does in Philadelphia. Right, other prospects. The Flyers have a really good system, of course, having lots of good draft picks over the years here. What are some prospects that everyone should be watching here this season?
Well, the number 1 guy is Porter Martone. I fell in love with his game in his D-1 season, in his draft year. He was awesome to watch. And when the Flyers started off poorly to start the season, I was like, oh man, imagine they get Porter Martone. And they got him, and I was really, really excited for that. He is very, very fun to watch, and I think he has superstar upside. The other one is Jack Murtagh. I was higher on him than maybe anybody. I did a little bit of my own prospect rankings. Matthew knows a lot about that stuff, and the Hockey Writers team is very good and very knowledgeable on prospects. But me personally, and I didn't post my own list, I had him at 21 among skaters entering the draft. I was super high on him, and I think Flyers fans will really love his game when they get to know him. He's just such a high energy type of guy. He's kind of Flyers hockey defined, and that's why I think everyone's going to love him. And I think that's why the Flyers themselves loved him so much.
Sure. And I know we did our draft recap after the draft there, and I know we talked about those two guys, but yeah, definitely keep an eye on those because yeah, Martone's going to be a star in the NHL. I don't know, next couple of years maybe, and add on to that, we already have in the lineup with Michkov. So yeah, watch those two guys this season wherever they. Well, Martone will be. Is he in the NCAA? I'm trying to kind of
yes.
Yes, it is. I'm true. It says so many prospects on my head. It's like, who's in the NCAA? Who chose to go there? Yeah, Martone was one of them. So watch him in the NCAA this season. All right. This could be obvious or not. Forwards and defense. Who's going to lead the team in scoring?
I think Michkov will lead the team in forward scoring, and defense, it's a little trickier. Sanheim's probably the best bet on defense. Drysdale could sneak in there, but I think I'll stick with Sanheim just because he's going to get those big minutes and score points as a result.
Yeah, big money too. He's getting paid a good amount. So if he can lead the team on defense, that's a big thing. All right, finish off the show. Bold prediction, hot take. These are always fun. I don't know if the Flyers Flyers writing team has put out anything about bold predictions yet this in a written form, but what do you got for a bold prediction this season?
I did do my own bold predictions, but I'm not going to exactly go off that article. My bold prediction, and it's one I've had for a few months, is that Michkov is going to score 100 points this year.
Like I said, it's possible. I dropped that already. I said it could happen. That would also mean someone would have to be scoring and finishing his assists. Guys cannot get 100 points by themselves. So yeah, we'll see if someone can finish off his passes to add to his second half of his points because no one's scoring 100 goals anymore. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks Justin for coming on talking to the Flyers. I mean, it's going to be an interesting season like it is every year. A new coach again. And we'll see how it all kind of impacts. And I mean, they were close to the playoffs, not this past season, but the season before, and could have even made it if things kind of fell their way. So it's not like they're far away. If Michkov can go off, if stuff goes right, they could be a playoff team. But it's going to be an exciting season to come. But thanks, Justin, for coming on for another preview.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, make sure to check out everything at thehawkers.com. Justin's coverage on the Flyers, all of our stuff that we have on the site, previewing the season. Lots of stuff there. Check out all of our Substacks, which go out every day for all the teams, different ones. We got the THW Daily that definitely goes out every day, but you're going to get something in your inbox if you're signed up there. And then everything else on the YouTube channel as we continue our preview of the 2025-26 season. But until our next video, we will see you next time.